The Bible verse was shown on the stage screen. Devil is also known as the accuser of the brethren. The well-dressed televangelist leaned in close as if he was scared. As people watched him on the Daystar television network, Rick Renner said, "This is the enemy's main weapon against the church." People who watched didn't know that this Bible verse was being used all the time to attack anyone who tried to question the leadership of the Lamb family. For years, people who used to work for or with the Christian media company have been telling stories that sound a lot alike. They weren't able to talk about their fears, such as not being able to see their money, being harassed at work, or having problems with their families. People called them attackers, just like Satan does today when he goes after God's chosen people. Groups like Ohio for Freedom keep an eye on this trend like weather signs before a storm because it's so easy to see. Renner sold his book, Last Days Survival Guide, which came out 5 years ago, on Joni Lamb's Table Talk. The conversation went in a strange direction. The part that was meant to be about accusations made on the internet quickly turned into a lesson in how to change the subject. Some people said Renner was saying bad things about the culture of charge on social media at a good time. As the show aired, more questions were raised about Joni Lamb's quick remarriage to Doug West after Marcus Lamb's death. There were also more claims about how the network handled abuse cases. This plant has been used before. Mike Bickle, who used to be the manager of IHOP KC, used the same phrase, accuser of the brethren, right before he was charged with sexual misconduct. When Perry Stone was being looked into for money crimes, he used it. It is now being used by Daystar against former members like Jonathan and Susie Lamb, who used religious reasons to fight Joni's marriage. What's the joke? These verses warn about people who make up charges that aren't true, not about people who cause worry based on facts. It's even stranger when you look at Daystar's legal history. Deals with past employees that are kept secret and NDAs that are talked about behind closed doors, even though the network's shows preach about being completely open. They'll film themselves giving cars to strangers, but they won't say where the money really goes, said a former filmmate. It's great that Daystar often raises money for good causes in Israel, but some people don't understand why the network doesn't talk about problems in the U.S., like the people who have been hurt by wildfires and floods in California and North Carolina. Where's the telethon for them, asks commentator James White. That might not be said because of the kinds of donors, not when there is an international problem. Do people think about who is in charge in their own country? This wall that was there to stop the probe is coming down. IHOP KC survivors led the way in Missouri in making NDAs illegal for people who have been abused. This has led to similar attempts to go after big names in religion media. Institutions keep things safe. A tip from Tammy Woods told the Roy's Report, survivors protect people. Rachel's hands were shaking as she typed her letter of resignation. What really happened after 7 years as a Daystar director was not the same as what was shown on TV. When she asked for proof that church money was being used for personal family trips, her boss brought up Revelation 12:10, which talks about the accuser of the brethren. She knew exactly what she was being told. Her questions work for Satan. Spiritual gaslighting, in which real fears are made to seem like attacks from evil spirits, is now the only thing that religious groups that are being closely watched can do. People who used to work there say they were psychologically trapped because they had to keep quiet about crime or be called a Jezebel spirit who ruined God's work. Because of this, a world where being abusive is okay because people believe in a higher power. The things that are on Daystar are a well-thought-out paradox. Big gifts are used on the radio to get people to be radically giving. Off air, several sources say that executives scold workers for small costs while taking six-figure fees for interior design work on homes owned by the Lamb family. In this case, the gospel of wealth is being used as a smokescreen to make money for people. This is a worrying trend in Christian media. Some strange patterns have been seen by ministries that keep an eye on money. For example, leaders have bought expensive homes at the same time that Daystar's Build the Kingdom projects have been going on. When reporters ask, they are told something that sounds a lot like none of your business. Do not touch the person God picked. The Lamb family story shows how favoritism can hurt religion groups. Analysts thought that when Marcus Lamb died in 2021, there would be a change in leadership that would show how far the network reached around the world. Instead, power stayed in the family, even though Jonathan Lamb didn't like that his mother got married again. Insiders say it's like a royal court, and leaders who aren't related to the family have to deal with tests of loyalty that aren't said out loud. Some people who used to be department heads said they had to swear, "I recognize the Lamb family as the spiritual covering God appointed for this ministry." Is that true? Not giving in meant firing right away for no reason. It's hard to tell the difference between religious loyalty and cult-like control when people ask for things like this. Daystar's paper record has the most proof that is bad. The court records show that at least 12 private deals have been made with former employees since 2015. Each of them made a strong promise not to talk about the deals. These papers are connected in strange ways. Some lawyers say this is a lot like the abuse problem in the Catholic Church, but with evangelicals' words. It's still done the same way, but now it's called spiritual war against accusers of the brethren. That's not the point of this argument. It's a straight fight over how religious groups handle disagreement, criticism, and claims of wrongdoing. The network has to decide if it wants to keep calling critics demons or follow what the Bible says about being honest and turning away from sin, which is what it says on air. A lot of things about this are the same as other faith-based organizations that have failed. Daystar's response to claims is like how the Catholic Church dealt with abuse cases, but he uses more religious language. People who have been victims say that Bible verses telling them not to touch God's chosen ones tricked them. NDAs are sold as a way to make peace with God, and legal deals are wrapped in church language. There are things that go wrong with money that are called accounting irregularities, and people who speak out about them are called spiritual division. Now is a very important time for Christian media to deal with this issue. Christian teens and young adults who use technology and are wary of dictatorships want new rules about who is responsible for what. They are sick of following the rules to hide problems in the system. Watchdog groups like the Roy's Report and the Church 2 movement have made it possible for the truth to get through. The people in charge of Daystar must now choose between two possible routes. If you use the same methods twice as a way to protect institutions, they might become less useful more quickly. More and more young people who value honesty over showmanship will see these networks as leftovers from a church industrial complex that has been thrown out. The way to turn around and make things right, this would need more than just changes to the way it looks. It says to get rid of systems that put the business ahead of people. If someone really feels bad about what they did, they would have to look into what happened in public, change how their government works, and pay back more than the law requires. There is more at stake than ever. Now that everything is digitally stored and can be found forever online, religious groups can't just control stories by controlling when they air on TV. Either Daystar's answer will lead to a new era of responsible service, or it will show what can go wrong when groups put their own needs ahead of God's will. It's not just about what will happen to Daystar, it's about how much trust Christian media can gain back. Today, the most strong proof isn't a well-made show, but the courage to live by its beliefs. What the network does next will show if it knows this. There's no way to ignore the similarities to mistakes made by the system in the past, settlements that are secret because of NDAs, problems with personality were changed from complaints, payments called compassion gifts instead of money to pay for things. Being spiritually blocked from justice keeps power structures in place, and victims are forced to keep quiet. But this plan has changed since we live in the digital world. People who blow the whistle on wrongdoing can use social media to get their message out without being watched by institutions. People who keep an eye on things like the Roy's Report and movements led by survivors like Church 2 show that the system is broken right now. The crowd is no longer locked up, even though Daystar may still have cameras running. They are looking very closely at. Everything tomorrow will depend on how well Daystar knows this change. Will it keep managing things in old, ineffective ways, or will it start a new era of being open? You'll know if it stays a good goal or if it turns into another example of how Christian media is losing its strength when you answer, reform that works takes more than just well-written words. It says the systems that put the lives of institutions ahead of people should be broken down. Time is running out. These kinds of networks are becoming more and more linked by younger Christians with lies instead of hope. The truth is coming out, and Daystar has to choose. Will it be known that it used power badly again, or that it broke the cycle in a very bad way? What effect it has will depend on what is chosen.